2001, Elon Musk donated $100,000 to Mars Society, founded in 1998 by Robert Zubrin for the exploration and eventual settlement of humans on Mars. He joined the board of directors for a short time and announced a project called Mars Oasis. The aim was to land a greenhouse and grow plants on Mars. For the project, a launch vehicle was needed. Musk initially sought to obtain a Dnipro launch vehicle through Russian connections, facilitated by Jim Cantrell, but the Russians were not ready. In fact, they were increasingly unreceptive. It was game over. But Musk had a plan. In fact, on the flight home, Musk announced he could start a company to solve the problem. In early 2002, Elon Musk started to look for staff for his company, soon to be named SpaceX. He approached 5 key individuals for initial positions at the company. Michael Griffin. At the time, Griffin was working in the aerospace industry and had a significant background in space technology. Musk offered him the position of chief engineer, but Griffin declined. Jim Cantrell. Cantrell was an aerospace engineer and entrepreneur. He was approached for his expertise in space systems and engineering. John Garvey. Garvey was also an aerospace engineer and had experience in rocket development. He, along with Cantrell, later founded Vector Launch. Tom Mueller. Mueller was a rocket engineer who had previously worked at TRW. He joined SpaceX as the Chief Technology Officer for propulsion. Chris Thompson. Thompson was an engineer who had worked at Boeing. He joined SpaceX as the Vice President of Operations. By November 2005, the company had 160 employees, all personally interviewed and approved by Musk. SpaceX's first orbital launch vehicle, Falcon 1, was developed at an estimated cost of $90 million to $100 million, entirely funded by the company's internal resources. The first launch is scheduled for 31st of October 2005. SpaceX is unable to execute the liftoff as there were technical issues with the liquid oxygen fill tank and an anomaly with the main engine computer. They are forced to postpone the launch. Now the launch is scheduled on 25th of November 2005. Yet another time they run into some technical issues and are forced to postpone the launch. The next attempt is scheduled for 19 December 2005. The attempt was scrubbed too. A faculty valve caused a vacuum in the first stage fuel tank which sucked inward and caused structural damage. The first stage is to be replaced. Finally, on 25 March 2006 at 9:30 a.m. local time on the Omelek Island in the Marshall Islands, the Falcon 1 lifts off the ground. The vehicle experiences a rolling motion after liftoff. This intensifies 26 seconds into the flight. At 41 seconds, 250 feet from the launch site, the Falcon 1 strikes a dead reef. There was a fuel leak and a subsequent fire. Firstly, the reason given was an improperly tightened fuel line nut. But later on, it was found that the nut was not the problem, since its locking wire was still in place, but had failed because of corrosion from salt water spray. SpaceX has to amend their mistakes and take another chance. Numerous changes are made to the rocket design and software to prevent this type of failure from reoccurring. The crew gets ready for the next flight. SpaceX states potential launch date as September 2006, but later on changes that to November and then December. In December, the launch was rescheduled for 9th March 2007. Another hurdle arises. The launch range is unavailable at the scheduled time due to a Minuteman free test flight, which could interfere with the safety systems. A second flight has to wait. The launch is set to 19th of March 2007. There is a data relay issue. After 45 minutes, the rocket is set to launch. Just 1 to 2 minutes before launch, a computer issue arises. The safety computer incorrectly detected a transmission failure caused by a hardware delay of a few milliseconds. The launch is set to next day, 20 March 2007. This time, the problem is with communications between one of the NASA experiments in the payload and TDRS system. Launch gets delayed by 65 minutes. This issue led to the decision to abort the launch. 21st March 2007, the engine ignites and the rocket is ready to lift off. Just at the last second before launch, the ground control software commanded a switchover of range telemetry from landline to radio. The transition is delayed by a few hundred milliseconds. The system verification software aborts the launch. SpaceX decides to attempt another launch on the same day. The rocket launches successfully. The rocket's first stage is the lower part. It is responsible for the initial push. We can say it worked well. The second stage is the upper part, meant to continue the journey into space. The first stage is separated, but something unexpected happened yet again. It spun faster than expected, bumping into the nozzle, the exhaust opening of the second stage. This was a design flaw. The first stage was spinning at 2.5 degrees per second instead of the planned 0.5 degrees. The nozzle of the second stage was made of a special material called niobium. It was chosen because it's less likely to crack if bumped compared to alternatives. The bump didn't seem to cause visible damage, but it affected the rocket's stability. The second engine starts and is supposed to stabilize itself using a system called thrust vector control. But because of the earlier bump, the rocket started wobbling more than expected. This instability was worsened by the sloshing of the fuel in the second stage's tank and an overcorrection by the thrust control system due to the earlier bump. The rocket is spinning uncontrollably. By 7:30 mark, the second stage engine shuts down due to instability. The mission is cut short. Despite the issues, the rocket managed to stay in flight for almost its full planned duration and deployed its test satellite ring. It reached an altitude of 289 kilometers and a speed of 5.1 kilometers per second, which is impressive but not fast enough to stay in orbit. It needed 7.5. It is August 3, 2008 and SpaceX attempts the third launch of its Falcon 1 rocket, but this mission has multiple payloads. A satellite for the US Air Force, 2 small satellites for NASA, a unique payload carrying ashes for a space bureau. The launch faces some hiccups before liftoff. While preparations are being made, there's one big issue. The loading of helium, a critical component for pressurizing the rocket systems, is taking longer than expected. The rocket's fuel and oxidizer is exposed to the cryogenic helium for too long. The rocket is unsuitable for launch. The team needs to fix the issue and give it a one more try within the launch window. The team starts the next attempt. With half a second remaining for liftoff and everything seemingly on track, a sensor gives faulty read. This causes the launch to be aborted automatically. The time is running and the team must work fast. With just about 25 minutes left in the launch window, the Falcon 1 finally successfully lifts off. The rocket is making some minor rolling movements that don't seem to be a big deal. The first stage of rocket, powered by a new Merlin 1C engine, is working flawlessly. The job of the first stage is finished and is separated. An issue arises in the second stage. The residual fuel in the first stage's engine created a small unexpected thrust as it burnt off, pushing the first stage into the second stage. This collision disrupted the second stage's ability to complete its mission, and the rocket will not be able to make it to orbit. The failure is marked as a timing issue during stage separation. The resolution is to simply increase the delay between the first stage shutting down and separating. For the failures, Musk blames himself. This is the last chance for SpaceX. The company has experienced 3 consecutive failures with their previous launches, and their financial resources are nearly depleted. Elon Musk has invested a significant portion of his personal fortune into the company, and the success of the 4th launch is crucial for the survival of SpaceX. The team assembles the 4th rocket using available parts in just 6 weeks. Now, when the rocket is ready, it needs to be transported to the launch site quickly. The team rents a Boeing C-17 military cargo plane. During the flight, the rocket gets damaged because the plane's pressurization system caused parts of the rocket to partially collapse, a problem no one had anticipated. To save the mission, emergency repairs are performed. It's the launch day, September 28, 2008. If something goes wrong again, the team has until 1st October to try again. The liftoff happens at 11:15 p.m. 9.5 minutes after takeoff, the second stage of the rocket reaches space and shuts down. The rocket has entered an orbit between 330 to 650 kilometers above Earth. The second engine starts for another burn, refining the orbit to about 621 to 643 kilometers above Earth, with an inclination of 9.35 degrees. Finally, the rocket is flying in a stable path around the planet. It is a big success, making a historic milestone. The first successful launch of the Falcon 1 and also the first time any privately funded liquid-fueled rocket reached orbit. SpaceX survives. It's April 13, 2009, and the Falcon 1 rocket is ready for its fifth mission. The launch window opens at 9 a.m. local time, and after weeks of delays due to vibrations and compatibility concerns with the SpaceX satellite, everything is finally set. Liftoff happens as planned, and the rocket successfully places SpaceX into its initial parking orbit. 38 minutes later, the second stage engine fires again, adjusting the orbit to a perfect circle. The satellite deploys smoothly, completing the mission. This time they did it like masters at craft. Elon Musk, SpaceX's CEO, declares the launch a success, proudly stating, "We nailed the orbit to well within target parameters, pretty much a bullseye." The Falcon 1 has proven itself again, and its upper stage remains in low Earth orbit, a testament to this milestone achievement. Following the fifth flight, future launches of Falcon 1 were postponed and eventually cancelled, and the vehicle decommissioned from service, with SpaceX stating, "We could not make Falcon 1 work as a business."
And the reason that I ended up being that chief engineer or chief designer was not because I want to, it's because I couldn't hire anyone. Nobody good would join. So I ended up being that by default, and I messed up the first three launches. The first three launches failed. Fortunately, the fourth launch, which was the last money that we had for Falcon 1, the fourth launch worked, where that would have been it for SpaceX.